Alright, so, I watched an anime recently called Holy Grail of Eris. There's this trend going on with the media, noticed it mostly in games, but now there's a handful of anime titles as well. In short, the quality starts high and then drops off a cliff. Very much the case here too. Either way, I have enjoyed the series immensely the first few episodes, that's surely undeniable. But as it went on, and that ending are both horrific. Hard to tell whenever it's a recommendation, but I've definitely wasted time on a lot worse than that. What is it about? 10 years ago, a prominent noble, Scarlet Castiel, is executed for a crime of an attempted poisoning of a princess. Yet the case was anything but closed, with more questions piling up and fewer answers as the time went on, all until her vengeful ghost manifests itself to a plain, down on her luck young noblewoman, Constance Grail, begging for help from someone, anyone who'd lend her a hand. All for a low, low cost of eternal servitude. What did I enjoy? Well, Scarlet and Constance... I always stumble on the weirdest words. Anyway, those two I have enjoyed immensely, that much is obvious. The dynamic they have isn't particularly interesting on its own, but it's this switch what occurs upon the possession and how much Scarlet takes control of any situation she finds herself in. This is the contrast what is so fascinating. I've also warmed up to Connie after a while. She does start very bland and boring, but over time she grows a backbone and actually does become quite charming as well. The plotting and scheming is the other major part in all of this, what I've enjoyed quite a bit. The nobles, mainly noblewomen at first, trading and gossip, favors social pressure and downright political power at times. The constant backstabbing where even a tea party can end up with a dangerous outcome. It's absolutely lovely. Not a fact what I have said at first, though. Now for the negatives. So, there are other problems, but this is the best example. I honestly considered not watching the rest of the series, that's how much of a drop in quality that is. In episode 10, scene goes line, pan to the other character who says something irrelevant or goes silent, line, more silence with blank expressions. Then there's talk between Connie and the male lead about how he's a total stud but is actually a sweetheart and cannot understand why does he feel this way about her. Oh no, I do wonder how this is going to end up for these two. And that drags on for half an episode. It had a shootout, imprisonment and kidnappings. I almost forgot all that considering how arduous that sapfest truly was. And the thing is, this kind of scene can be done well. I do not like romance most of the time, but I've enjoyed plenty of romance titles in the past. This is simply the fault of basically everything else here. Terrible pacing, terrible direction, well, even animation itself is terrible. There's a moment when that guy stabs it around 12 minutes into the same episode 10. Holy crap. It's like they've had MS Paint used for the animation, just awkwardly moved arm sliding straight down. A realistic or even stylistic movement involves more than a simple point A to point B. Cloth distortion, gravity, flash and fabric resistance upon incision, arm twisting, knife drawing blood, victim recoiling. So much more detail, what is natural, yet this is a 2009 amateur YouTube level animation instead. Should have been such powerful scene about just a dangerous adversary getting punished, yet instead it was a chore to witness. Just compare it to the scene from episode 2. Obvious there is more to the scene before, but even the possession itself, how much more effort is in that scene? They've got both of them changing expressions, moving around, the camera pans and zooms, and there are distortion effects around their ghostly forms as the clothes flatter in the wind. Flatter, whatever. All the while there are also background characters, multiple changing perspectives, and eventually that reveal of Scarlet taking over with her piercing glare instead of the adorable perpetual panic Constance has. Even the music cue is on point. It's not the highest level of quality, sure, of course, we don't have Fate Cash Money, but it's still good. This scene is done well, and then look at the later ones. Did they run out of budget? Are they just bored of it already? Hell, even just taking snapshots of episode 10 and looking at the woman as she gets stabbed, as it happens, hearing her voice, full of rage, livid at the sudden betrayal. And then I see the absolute bare minimum animation. Have some dignity. The poor voice actress is doing her best, and this is what you give her? It's insulting. That's the general gist with the quality of, let's call it, direction. But the writing itself also takes a bit of a dive, and I'm not exactly sure what the original is. Upon looking at the Wikipedia, the light novel is still coming out, so I wonder if Animation Studio simply settled for animating the first major arc. So they paid a lot of attention to the first few chapters, and then realized, oh no, we only have 12 episodes, better pick up the pace. And I think the best example is close to the end of episode 4, 20-ish minutes in. It pretty much plays exactly how I edited it, give or take a few shots. Around 30 seconds for something that could have been a nice reunion with a character who was important earlier, a few words with a new character, and probably some background information on the drug, the dealings, and so on and so forth. Which is probably why around that point is when the possessions essentially stop. And suddenly the stakes are much bigger, everyone gets introduced and instantly swept aside, giant plot points revealed, and somehow it still feels slow at times. What a paradox. Also, I never did enjoy the supernatural element in all of this. Possession was great, of course, but there is just more to it. The people at one point accept that Scarlet really is a ghost, floating around with some characters even seeing her. But Scarlet is so much more interesting as someone only Constance knows about, so it's always up in the air whenever she's real or not. Having a constant Deus Ex Machina is so tedious, but I guess I could just accept it. However, that's all fine and good, fine and acceptable, I suppose, but that ending is downright insulting. I don't know what the plan there was, but the way it was set up... screw it, I'll spoil it. So the spoiler is, Scarlet passes on, and it plays out fairly well. Everyone is affected, they move on, there's a bit of a time skip. Rudy and Connie are holding hands, yada yada yada, and then Pamela shows up again to stab her, only for Scarlet to manifest herself and save the day. The way she acts is almost making it all fine, but after that sorrowful goodbye, getting her right back for something so stupid feels like a slap in the face. Hell, let me just write a better scene. So Pamela comes up, Connie fights back, thinking back on her journey with Scarlet, standing up for herself just like Scarlet would. And all the while, Connie is mocking Pamela, bluffing while narrowly avoiding her attacks. The commotion draws a crowd and she gets subdued. Then, Scarlet shows up and gives Connie an approving nod as camera pans away. I believe that sounds way better. Anyway, I've had some fun with Holy Grail of Eris, but at the end of the day, it's so deeply flawed that I doubt it will really stay in my memory for much longer. But what good is there... was very enjoyable.